The platoon leader, he was getting ready to de-roast out, and they said, John, hey, do you want to fly scouts? And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go fly. And so, instead of doing paperwork and doing test flights. So we flew a crew of 3. We flew a observer or a training pilot. And in the back, we had a crew chief with an M60 machine gun. So he covered that side while you're circling a target and looking for footprints, documents, bent grass, bad guys. I was in command one day, and we spot some rice sacks, and we think, well, we see a rifle cache or a weapons cache. And so we fly over the village. I take a big, long route out of small arms range, and I come around. And so the observer, who was the platoon leader, he said, I want to get a closer look at that village. So I fly a little bit closer to the village. And pretty soon, we get fire from the village. And they got my engine. Well, they got a control on the engine. And so just like in Apocalypse Now, like the dash lights up, the rotor's going low. I pull the nose up, and I'm trying to get over this rice dike. Well, I hit the tail stinger, and it turned us cattywampus. And we're rolling, and we hit nose down. Rotor blades come off. The transmission gets bent in its mounts. And we end up landing in the rice dike. No injuries. Well, at least not that we knew of. No blood, So everybody's mobile. And I'm laying in the water on the side. And I'm looking up at platoon leader. And his name escapes me right now, but I know him like the back of my hand. Anyway, I say, you get out? He says, yeah, I'm trying. So I'm grabbing the whiz wheel and whatever intelligence we have in their manuals and paperwork. And I'm getting ready to pull the grenade, and we put a wired phosphorus grenade to the console. And I got my survival vest on. I've got my had an M16 pinned to it with a big diaper pin. Because if you don't have it in your hand, normally when you get out of the aircraft, you got nothing. Everything's left in there. And I go out past the platoon leader. Because Captain Benson, that was his name. Benson's moving around, and he's, sort of checking, you're stretching and trying to check your body for injuries. And I jump out past it. And out the aircraft, down in the rice paddy. The gunner had already grabbed his weapon. He'd gone out the other side, and he was headed for the rice dike against the bad guys. And we were covering for a armored cav unit. And they're going across the dikes. They're catching up to us. And about the time I get to the dike, Benson was right behind me. We all 3 got to the dike, and the ground cavalry, were going, and the Cobras were, daisy chaining, and the rockets were going off. They were firing their miniguns and their 40 Mike. It was quite an operation and quite a thrill, actually. So we get to the dike and we huddle up. We look at each other, and we're showing our the gear we got out of the aircraft, and we start laughing. I don't know why we were laughing, but none of us were scared, apparently. And the only person that was really firing was the crew chief. He had that big M60. He's shooting until the tanks get past us, and he didn't want a friendly fire incident, so he quit firing. And they take us back to Well, our CCO always flew heavy team. 2 Cobras and an empty UH-1 in one Loach. So that was fortunate the way we did that. I thought, you know. So they're coming down. They pick us up and they take us to Chulai and they take us to the hospital. And anyway, we get back to the unit and I fly, and then I ended up the PO, the fuel and replenishment, rearming at I'm trying to remember, Camlock, I believe it was. We had a dirt strip there, and that was a replenishment, and the Caribous and C-130s were bringing in the ammunition and the fuel for us going into Laos. And I was a ground officer. So, I made sure we got our stuff and we put it in our area, our refueling unit, and our rearming pads. And I was in charge of the guys that were doing that stuff. So one night we get attacked. There are North Vietnam soldiers in the wires, Bangalore torpedoes. We're firing from our positions, plus redoing the helicopters. Well, of course, under attack, we tried to cease the flight into operations. The only aircraft that were coming in for us were guys that were, badly low on fuel. And we fuel them as fast as, give them some fuel to get out of there. And, we weren't filling them up or anything, but just because we knew, well, anyway, we killed 14 North Vietnamese and Viet Cong in the wire that night. So we complete that mission in Laos. We lost a couple of aircraft, unfortunately, in the fog in the mountains there. A couple of Cobras. Anyway, we go back to Kiha, and we work our tour. And one day, I'm walking down the Troop Street, and the XO yells out, "Hey, John, Toledo, come here." Pulls me into his office. I still owed him. I was coming up with my DROS. I still owed him 6 more months for my transition. I was surprised. He says, "John, they signed the Paris Peace Accords. It's 1970. And you're going home on your original DROS day. I didn't have to give them 18 months more. 6 months more." And I had a sigh of relief, and I didn't say a word to him. I wasn't going to say, "Wow, yeah," you know what I mean? I wasn't going to do that. And so I went home on my original DROS date. And then I got an assignment of a lifetime. They assigned me to Savannah, Georgia. And but when I came home, like the other fella, I didn't have, I changed into my civvies, but I always picked up my family. So I had a lot of support. It was, it was emotional. But if I didn't have the family I had, it would have been a really sad, emotional time. But it was great. My wife was there. My in-laws were there. My parents were there. My brothers, most of my brothers and sisters were there. So it was emotional, wonderful coming home.